Hello. Okay, I'm connecting to Facebook as well. Oh, I did it the right way. I did it the way my son told me to do it, and maybe I didn't do it the right way. Oh, you guys know this is never like, I never get it right the first time. I thought I did it. All right, well, we might not be able to go live on Facebook right now. Okay, wait, maybe we'll go down here. Go live. Oh,
there we go.
There we go.
Hi.
You guys, I did it. I'm not like the most technological person. So, all right. Welcome, happy Thursday. Welcome to Afternoons with Ems, my weekly show where I sit down with women in my life that I think bring a lot of value with what they do in their careers or what they're building in the community or how they parent their families. And I just think there are so many incredible stories to tell, and I love to be a part of telling them. So today we're sitting down with my good friend, Wendy Popa. Wendy and I met, years ago now. It was years ago. We had
first grade maybe.
Yeah, little kids at the same school, and so we just got to be mom friends for a while at the same school. Well, then the wheels kind of started falling off the bus with my son's education, and he just was struggling, and we didn't have any answers. And I had taken him to one place for testing and wasn't getting just any sort of like clear, this is what's going on. And then Wendy's like, well, you know what I do. And so Wendy what's your official title?
By training, I'm a speech language pathologist.
Okay.
And then here at Winston Center, I'm co-founder, co-CEO.
Yes. So tell everyone a little bit about what the Winston Center is.
The Winston Center is a multi-specialty group that specializes in the assessment and treatment of ADHD and learning differences.
Okay.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot, right? So my son has dyslexia, verbal processing, sensory processing. Those were the three that were his strongest. A little bit with ADHD, but we haven't ended up needing to do that much with it. But that was a huge diagnosis when we first got it. So I feel like the thing that you guys are so gifted at is, first of all, helping figure out what the heck is going on, and then breaking it down so in like those bite-sized pieces that parents can understand.
It's quite the journey. It's quite the journey for parents to travel, and I know for myself, it was a huge journey to embark on.
Yes. So talk a little bit about that. How did you start on this journey?
So we started on our journey when my own son had to take kindergarten twice, and his teacher was like, something is just a little bit different about your kiddo. And so we thought, okay, he's our firstborn. We don't know how to do this, what to look for. And so we sought out a variety of assessments and went to lots of different professionals. And he also ended up getting diagnosed at 6.5 with dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, inattentive type ADHD. And it was quite the shock to find out your little 6.5-year-old has all these things going on, but you know they're still bright.
Right.
And so that was what was confusing at the time.
I think that can be one of the most discouraging pieces of finding out this sort of information, because you see this beautiful child and you are able to see the way that they problem solve and the things about them that make them unique and special, and you're able to see that they are smart, whatever. I feel like that label is used in a lot of different ways, but they're smart, they're creative, they're quick, they're a great problem solver, like whatever it is that they have gifts within their challenges. But so often that all you hear is or see is the diagnosis, because school is usually taught one way to one sort of brain, because we teach to the average. So
it was hard, at that young age. He already had little buddies that were starting to read chapter books and writing their own little stories, and I've got a kid who can barely write the alphabet or a few letters maybe, but I was able to see his other intelligences. I was able to see his other gifts, and so it was very confusing at that time.
So had you already gone to school for speech pathology and all of that? So you already had this leaning, this bend towards...
Well, Yeah, at the time when he was diagnosed, I was doing adult acute care up at Sacred Heart, and I started to realize, okay, my kiddo's kind of processing language like my stroke patients or my brain injury patients.
Okay.
And the treatment I was applying to them, I realized was working for him. And that's when I started to put the pieces together, that there is maybe more of a neurobiological thing going on instead of, you know, the concept of my kid just can't read.
Right.
There's more behind it.
And for any of you mamas out there that have faced this, you know that feeling when the whole class is like galloping along in one way and then your kiddo is not. And the teacher, you're always being the one like, okay, well, everyone was able to do their reading on their own, but they didn't get to it. You have extra work. These are the things we think you should do. And what it ends up doing is like, for better or worse, the teachers are trying to help you, but they end up avalanching you with homework because they're trying to get them caught up, right? Okay, if they just do more math facts or they just read longer at home, then the repetition will help them. And there is some truth to that, but often it's not about, it's about kind of training the brain to learn in a way that the brain knows how to learn, right?
Absolutely. And so for these kiddos, it's just a processing difference.
Yes.
And so a lot of our traditional education is aimed towards teaching a certain pathway of processing, whereas these kiddos need additional pathways to process, additional ways to learn. And so it's not practice of more of the same thing, it's learning to process differently and to have an intervention or a teaching model that teaches to the way they process information. And so it's not that they can't get it, because they can. Dyslexics can read, dysgraphics can write, and dyscalculic people can do math. But it's approaching it from a different angle.
And for me, once I realized that it wasn't, because it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose when you're first figuring all this out. And when I was like, okay, we're not going to be buried under a mountain of work forever. Like that, we are going to learn how to help him in the best way. That I felt for the first time, like there was this huge sense of relief, because it was all we could do before, to just kind of keep him between the lanes on the road, and it wasn't really working that well. He was super tapped out, I was tapped out, and it wasn't sticking. It was like we do all that work and it was like water off a duck's back. It would just like stick for a little bit, and then we'd be like, we went over that. And so when we were finally able to come, when we found you guys and were able to get some clear-cut answers, I felt like it was the first time in our journey that I thought, this is gonna be okay. We're gonna be able to help this kiddo. Do you see that a lot across the board with parents, like taking that sigh of relief?
Yes. Yeah. So here we do really in-depth evaluations, because we're not just trying to find where it's going wrong, where there's issues. We're also trying to identify strengths as well. And so when we're having that post-evaluation meeting with the family, we're able to say, hey, we're aware, just as you suspected, this, and this are areas of struggle, but guess what? They also have these areas of strength and these areas of giftedness, and we can use those to help them learn what they're not grasping yet. And kind of the overarching theme at Winston is hope. Our desire is to give families hope, because it is a scary journey. I've been on it myself. The first few years were really scary. There's definitely a grieving process, and you feel like that parent of a different kid in class. They're not performing like their peers. But our goal is to give hope to families and help them realize, hey, we're going to walk alongside you in this. We get it. We understand. And guess what? Your kid's able. They're capable. And we know that your kid has dreams. We know that you have dreams for your kid. And we want to help you accomplish those things. And that's really the foundation. Those were things I didn't receive when my kid was evaluated. And I thought, man, if we can create a place that would offer that to families, how awesome would that be? Just to give them that, give them hope for their kid's future.
I think hope is such an important piece, because you kind of are feeling hopeless in a way. Or frustrated or scared for your kiddo, or thinking that this is going to be a really hard road. Their whole education journey is going to be really challenging. So my theme for the month of September, is parenting a unicorn. And I last week I had a girlfriend on the show whose daughter has hydrocephalus, so she learns differently. She has some physical limitations, but I see this with kids that, I mean, I kind of feel like Tristan, my son, is a bit of a unicorn kiddo with the way his brain works, with the way he processes things with, I can always see him like really thinking something through. He's not a quick to talker because he always wants to make sure what's coming out of his mouth are the words that he meant to say, because he flips them around. And so as you do this work, oh, I forgot to turn off my notifications, y'all. As you do this work, how do you see that kind of theme play out in the kiddos that come into your office, as far as like, there's so many different spectrums?
There is definitely a spectrum, and you know, we have kiddos who come in and they're really severely impacted in multiple ways. I mean, they probably have ADHD going on, or some attention or memory learning issues. They may have language processing issues, as well as the written language components with the dyslexia or dysgraphia. And so it's not often like a really clean case where it's just one little thing. It's usually a compound of a variety of things. And also kind of the undercurrent for a lot of kiddos is also anxiety. The learning process hasn't been easy for them, so anxiety is often developed over time because they're really aware that they're learning differently, and they're very anxious to engage in learning and engage in the learning process.
Are you feeling like anxiety is higher among kids than it used to be? Because I just hear about it a lot. And I don't feel like we talked about it when I was growing up. People, and maybe it was just because our parents were not they were not having any of that. We were not talking about our anxiousness. They were like, go out and play, here's some Kool-Aid. I don't know. Yeah. But I feel like I'm hearing a lot about juvenile anxiety more than I think we ever have.
There is a lot of pressure, and not only amongst peers. I mean, I think with all the different platforms they have access to now, and knowledge that's coming out and information that's coming at us, but there is a lot of anxiety, especially for this group of people. Statistics are showing that, especially for individuals with learning disabilities, they equate the type of shame or anxiety they're experiencing to that of a person who's been sexually abused. So it's really extreme for some of these kids.
Wow, okay.
Really extreme. So the shame they're feeling, the anxiety they're experiencing about this should be treated and should be addressed. It shouldn't be ignored. They need to have that addressed.
So it's surprising me that you say that there's still a lot of shame out there surrounding it, because I feel like we've gotten better about talking about this. I mean, growing up, if you went to the resource room, right? That was like where you went if you needed any help, and no one really talked about it. I mean, it was years, I think, before my husband was comfortable saying like, oh yeah, I have dyslexia. And now I feel across the board now, people are more like, oh, my kid has ADHD or dyslexia. We're just like, we throwing it out, but they're still feeling shame about.
Yeah, they still are. You know, there is, it's a wonderful thing that people are talking about these things, that they're addressing them, that they're willing to call it what it is. You know, these kiddos, when they're not diagnosed or don't understand what's going on, or they don't know why they're processing differently, they will create their own labels. They'll call themselves stupid or, you know, the bad kid. I've had lots of kiddos enter my room and they just think, well, I'm dumb, I can't do this, which is completely false.
Right.
And so we're having to rewrite their mental script. We're having to rewrite their self-confidence. We're having to rewrite their story of who they are, because they're carrying this burden that's making them so anxious. But it takes parents, it takes one adult in these kids' lives to rewrite their positive script. It could be a teacher, you know, one teacher who speaks truth into them, saying, I know you're capable, I know that you're able. That can completely transform them.
Yeah, Tristan definitely had that. He had some great teachers come alongside, and I think there are so many good teachers out there. I think the teachers are overwhelmed at times too.
Yes.
Because there's so much, right? There's so many kids.
There's so many kids, and it's just a different time. Yeah, there's a lot of kids who are dealing with these issues, and I think it's important that teachers are educated in how to best support these kids. You know, I hope that there'll be more teacher education, in understanding what these learning differences are, that these students are trying 10 times harder than the other students, even if though they may be studying their little tails off to get a C. They worked so hard for that C. Hard for that C. And to praise the effort that the kid put into it. Right. And to understand that they are trying their best. And again, just to reinforce that for the student is that it's about the effort, it's not necessarily about the grade.
So do you feel that learning disabilities are on the rise, that there are more kids diagnosed than there was when we were growing up? I feel like they are.
There's a lot of different components to that. Definitely.
So tell me what's contributing to that? Is it, I mean, I feel like everyone's always blaming the electronics. It's the electronics, and it could be.
It could be. So I think there's a couple different pieces to that. One, I think people are talking about it more, and there's more awareness in our community. So I think awareness helps with people actually seeking out intervention and treatment. The other part, though, there's some studies, coming out of different countries around here, like such as one in Canada recently, that talked about how we are receiving fewer hours of sleep. And sleep can also contribute to some of these executive function deficits. Our diet, the things that are in our food, having purer food is better for our bodies and our brain. There's so many pieces that play into us being able to process optimally and perform optimally, but also contributes to how we end up performing academically and in general. There's lots of different pieces, and I don't think they can't pinpoint one thing.
Right.
But I think there's things in our environments, like you said, electronics, increased time on electronics. There's some studies coming out of the American Academy of Pediatrics that might be suggesting that as well. It's suggesting, don't give kiddos electronics before the age of 2.
Right.
Those sorts of things.
Because we certainly didn't. Like, we weren't grocery shopping and our moms were handing us a tablet. You know, that we were like we were just had a rattle or whatever we had in the grocery cart at that stage. I know there's a lot out there. And I just read an article where other countries that ban so many ingredients see a lot less like ADHD and just kind of some of those, I don't know, is it called a behavioral, like they see less
of those types of behaviors.
Yes.
Yeah. So there can be some different additives added into our foods that can increase certain behaviors as well.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, exercise is also a huge thing. We know that kiddos with ADHD tend to have a higher BMI, and so we know that the obesity is on the rise in our country. And part of the thing is that we need to make sure our kids are being active. Physical activity is a huge helper in our executive function skills. If we had our kiddos starting school with PE each day, they would perform so much better at school, because that exercise gets the brain going and gets all those endorphins going, and they're able to receive all that's being taught.
Oh, I love that. Well, you all know, like, I preach exercise all the time just because for me it's what lowered my anxiety. I was able to get off anti-anxiety meds. It keeps my fibromyalgia in check. I just function better exercising. Even though I have to make myself do it, right? It doesn't come naturally to me. So it's very interesting to me that is such a key component. Well, and it makes sense. And we've seen it with our son. He sleeps better. I don't know if any of you have seen this or that you see it, but my son struggles with a bit of insomnia. Just can't shut that brain off. And so lots of physical activity. We watch his diet, and we make sure that he gets to bed within a certain amount of time, so that, because they do need a ton of sleep. Their brains are working so hard.
They do.
But they they can't always shut it down.
Yeah, that winding down part. So teaching them good sleep hygiene at a younger age is going to be so important.
Yeah.
To help them develop those lifelong patterns that they need. But here at Winston Center, on the ADHD side of things, and on the dyslexia side, we really encourage good lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
Really good lifestyle choices. We want to consider, what is your diet, how is your exercise, how is your sleep, and how are you managing stress? I mean, the impact of stress on our bodies and on our brains is huge. And for these kiddos, like you were saying earlier, the anxiety levels are high, stress is high at school. Think about the stress they're experiencing all day long when they know they're learning differently, and that challenge in the classroom. So we need to be able to teach our kids ways to decompress, bring that stress level down, and have other outlets for their geniuses too.
Do you ever see like your son come home, because I see it with Tristan, and he's just tapped. His brain has done all of the math computing he can do for the day, and he is just like so. Yeah,
it's done. They're done.
They're done. Yeah.
And so teachers sending home a ton of extra homework, it's not going to help because their brains are done.
Right.
So they need to engage in something that their brain wants to engage in, that brings them joy, brings them pleasure. Doing some physical activity, being part of a club or a sports team or whatever, is of interest to them. They need that other outlet.
Yes, they do. They need, because they work so hard in school, they need something other than school to give them a break.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it takes them, they do work twice as hard for less of a result, less of a letter grade, since that's how we judge it. And so I always see like, okay, we need to be done.
Yeah,
for the night.
I think it's important for parents to recognize that, yes, school's important, but it's not everything. It's not what defines you. Your grades aren't what define you. And, reiterating that with your kiddo, we're going to come alongside you and help you be successful at school, but identify what their other passions are.
Yeah.
And that's their future, really. I mean, like with my kiddo, he is so wired like an engineer. He loves to go home and work on our lawnmowers. We have these lawnmowers, these riding lawnmowers, and he can completely rebuild the engine when it's broken. I don't know how he does it. There's no manual, but that's what brings him joy. He loves working on machines. And so that's his downtime. He doesn't want to do math facts. He doesn't want to work on vocabulary or grammar. He wants to go work on a machine. And so we let him work on machines.
Totally.
And it brings him joy.
Well, and I think that you do what you love, right? You end up doing what interests you, and so as they continue to grow, that's the direction that they go. So looking back on it, for me, I realized that in preschool with Tristan, there was some warning signs. There was things I probably should have, but I just thought, it's okay that he's not getting his alphabet down, like he will.
Yeah.
Well, then I had my daughter, and she had it down within like a hot minute, and I was like, yeah, okay, there was a big glaring difference. And so do most of these disorders present with early warning signs, do you feel like?
They do.
Okay.
They really do, and you can see them in preschool. And I think, schools are often telling parents, wait till second grade, wait till third grade, we're going to just wait and see.
Yeah, we kept getting told wait till third grade.
And see. The signs for dyslexia show up in preschool, and the signs for ADHD can also show up in preschool, and for a lot of these other learning disabilities and learning differences, I should say. But yeah, so I think parents should be aware of what some of those warning signs are for the kiddos with dyslexia, dysgraphia. We're looking at things like language acquisition. Were they slower to learn to talk? Do they have difficulty saying longer words? Now, we know a lot of 3 and 4-year-olds will say spaghetti like biscotti or other things like that. But these kids kind of do that a little bit longer than their peers. They have trouble finding their words more, or slower to gain words, slower to put longer phrases together. For some of our kiddos with ADHD, they may be the kids that have some emotion regulation difficulties. In the preschool classroom, it's going to be more so than their peers. They may react more strongly to situations, or they may have more impulse control.
So would that be the kid that's considered the one who's always like acting out?
Sometimes. So no, we know there's 2 parts to ADHD.
Okay.
There's a hyperactive and inattentive.
Okay.
So they could also be the wallflower. And it could be the kid who's kind of just daydreaming, and you may give them direction 3 or 4 times, and they're not really responding. They're like, wait, what? What was the direction? Or they give you instruction like, hey, so we're going to draw this picture, and then we're going to talk about the picture, and you give them 5 steps.
Yeah.
They may start to draw the picture and then forget the rest of it.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different things, but I think be aware that yes, a lot of children show some of these signs, but if it's a little bit more so than the rest of the class, keep open communication lines with your teachers and preschool teachers, and they'll help you address those things and let you know, this may be a little bit more than the rest of the class, so you can take that next step.
So I kind of wish I would have listened to my gut earlier. Then waiting till third grade for Tristan. I think it would have helped him immeasurably had we started earlier. So do you, like, is that just your advice? Like, you should listen, if you have a feeling something's off,
Yeah.
get tested?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a gut feeling, it doesn't hurt to take that step and maybe rule it out, because you can also rule it out, or it could, you can confirm it. And the brain is so plastic, and really when you're looking at something like dyslexia, dysgraphia, you have a really sweet spot up until 7 or 8 to do a lot of reshaping and a lot of rechanneling of those neural pathways with intervention. And so if we can get a kiddo at 4 or 5 and start intervention then, they will have a much, much decreased likelihood of academic failure.
It's an easier road.
It is.
For them.
It's
I
a
wish
lot
I would have
easier.
known
And they're more willing to engage in the treatment too. If we get a kiddo in here at 14, 15, 16, or even like 12, they may not want to engage in the treatment. They probably already have a pretty strong script of who they think they are, and have a lot of shame that you're going to have to tear down a lot of walls before they're willing to engage in any sort of intervention.
Well, and what we see with Tristan, when we started, he was third grade, so he was probably 7 or 8, I think, is that his brain had already taught him a way to do it that worked for him, that he knew he could do it. So it felt like harder work to learn a new way that would ultimately help him in the long run.
Yeah. Our brains are amazing. Neuroscience is one of my most favorite parts of my field, and the brain's ability to kind of rewire and figure it out. I mean, these kids are smart, and they're really good problem solvers. I mean, think of the Einsteins in our world. These are these kids, and they know how to make workarounds, and they know how to problem solve, and they know how to accomplish those things.
They know how to get to the end result in whatever way. And I always feel like Tristan's a bit scrappy with it. He like will piece it together and just figure it out, even though I'm like, that's not like, okay. Nope, we caught back up. I have a low battery. We're gonna be fine. So talk a little bit about family dynamics, because it doesn't always present in families the same way.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So you may have one person who's just mildly impacted with some spelling differences or some minor attention or memory issues, and other people may be really profound and need really intensive support. They may be profoundly impaired with reading or writing or math or those attention and planning skills.
Yeah. So I think you just watch out, right? Like, my husband and I both have dyslexia. Our dyslexia is super different, the way it showed up in our lives. His was, I would say, much more severe than mine, and but then Tristan got it more along the lines of what my husband had. Rosie doesn't really have anything that we can, I mean, occasionally she turns her pee around, but it's hard to know. She's in third grade, so it's hard to know, like, is that a 9? Is it a P? Like, do you really know? Like, I think, it's just a little bit here and there, but nothing like what we were facing. And she was reading early and all the things. So I just think, like, it's also not a death sentence, right? If one kiddo has it, doesn't mean another kiddo will.
No,
or
you have a 50% chance of acquiring it from a parent.
Yeah. So all those hereditary things.
It is.
It is.
It is the gift that keeps on giving.
So speak to the mama out there a little bit that's at her wit's end. Like, she might be keep getting the progress reports home from school that they're not doing well, or they're having behavioral challenges. She doesn't know what to do. The things that they're trying at home are not working. What do you say?
I would say reach out for help. First of all, reach out to people who know and understand these differences and challenges, who can help you walk on that path, and it can help give you guidance and give your kiddo guidance. Here at Winston Center, we offer that kind of support to our entire state region in Idaho and a few other states. But take that first step and just start to seek help. If you want more information, understood.org is a really great resource for parents. If you're just like, I have questions, I'm not sure if this is it, they have great resources on their website. Have hope, and love your kiddo where they're at. And Don't punish them for not being able to get a certain grade. Don't punish them for, not being able to finish your assignments. Find what they can do and walk alongside them at their pace.
Yeah.
They'll often have a different path and a different pace than what you think they might have had or wanted them to have. But have patience in the process. Have a lot of grace in the process. Identify what their strengths are.
Yeah.
They need to know what their strengths are because they need to be able to create a positive self-script and have confidence themselves in what they can do.
And they need you to cheerlead that area on in
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I think we hold grades with a loose hand, right? Because if you, like, our son's an achiever and he wants to do well, so he's going to beat himself up 6 ways to Sunday just trying to get the grades he wants. But we always are like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we know how hard you're working. You did great. And we also, like, I'm not that I don't think he couldn't get into an Ivy if that's where he sets his mind to, but we don't put that kind of pressure on him.
Yeah.
Like, he is going to end up at a great college doing a career that he loves. But the thing I want the most, and I know you'll say this as a mom too, is like, I want a happy kid who feels confident in who he is and has a drive and an excitement for life.
Absolutely.
Regardless
Absolutely.
of what that looks like with the way he learns, processes. That's going to be something he'll navigate his whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like at school, their job right now is to go to school.
Yes.
And to be students. And we know it's a hard job for them to go engage with every day. So our job is to kind of, release some of that burden at home, help them identify those gifts, support them, and know that, oftentimes these kiddos, they get into college and this whole new person emerges.
Yes.
They can hyper-focus and pour into whatever their areas of giftedness are. And suddenly a kid that could maybe be mediocre in school is now a straight A student because this is what their brain wants to do. This is what they're gifted in, and they love it. And so oftentimes a lot of these individuals turn around once they leave our traditional education system and are able to pour into their passions.
Yeah, they're able to do what what they were created to do.
Yeah.
So so I'm sure, one question I want, do people need to get a recommendation from their doctor to make an appointment with you?
It depends on their insurance policy.
Okay.
So I would call your insurance company and ask that question.
Yes, because I think that's a good one to know.
It helps just to have it on file in case insurance ever asks for it.
Yeah. When we first started with the Winston Center, I just wrote the check, y'all. Like, I was like, I don't know if our insurance, I think we sent it to our insurance and they reimbursed us or whatever, but I was like, this will cost what? Okay, here's the check, because it mattered so much to me to get answers for our child. We didn't go through our doctor, but I didn't know I just wanted to clarify that for people if they thought they need to see their pediatrician. I always think it is a good idea to talk to your pediatrician too. The person that's been seeing your child their whole life will have some great input on this. And if you live in Spokane, the pediatrician will recommend you go to the Winston Center.
Hopefully they will,
Yeah, that's where our pediatrician does at least.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think a lot of them do.
Yeah.
If you could get into the school systems and wave a magic wand and have a wish granted, what would you do? How would you see the system change to benefit kids with learning? Do we say learning disabilities anymore? Is it learning differences? What is the right wording?
I prefer learning differences because I think it's just that they learn differently.
Yes.
Their brain is wired a little bit differently. I don't necessarily view it as a disability. But if I was able to wave a magic wand, I would gift all the teachers with knowledge, good information, research-based knowledge of what these differences are and what they can do to encourage these children in the learning process. Teacher training is where it starts. I know in the state of Washington there's a lot of different grassroots parent movements that are trying to work with our state legislature to change some bills in teacher training and also what the schools are doing to identify and treat these kiddos. But until we change the teacher training programs to train the teachers on what this really is, we're not going to see a lot of difference. So I think it starts with teacher knowledge. There's a lot of misinformation out there about it. A lot of them think it's just switching letters and not seeing correctly. It doesn't really have anything to do with vision. if they had good knowledge, good information, they would be able to know how to help these kiddos. And they'd identify them early.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if it should be part of their undergrad, you know?
Absolutely.
As far as,
absolutely.
Because it's more common across the board, right? It's not just like
1 in 5.
Yeah.
So if you have a class of 20 kids, 4 of those kiddos have a learning challenge of some sort. And if teachers knew how to help those kiddos achieve, it would be so powerful for those kids.
I wish they would do mandatory testing at a young age.
Well, that's a good topic to bring up, because starting next year, I believe, in Washington State, they will require mandatory screening of K through 2 for dyslexia.
Oh,
which
that's
is going
a
to be
win.
Wonderful.
That's
Yes.
a win for those kiddos.
It is. So they'll be screened and identified. Now they don't have mandatory intervention yet.
Okay.
That's the next step. We're working on that.
I think, but any of these pieces that come together may help the puzzle piece for our kids, right?
Yes.
Like, so anytime, if there is screening available, you should take it up. If you have any questions about something going on with your child, you should see what resources are there out there for them. Because if you think you don't know what's going on, let me tell you, your kiddo feels like they are drowning. That's how Tristan described it to us. Like, when he finally started being able to gain some momentum, he no longer felt like he was struggling for, you know, every win, every homework assignment was no longer felt like a battle.
And you know, when they have those teachers who do get it, they do understand, they're willing to accommodate and work along with your kiddo, it completely changes your child's perspective of school or of learning or of teachers.
Yes.
They become active, engaged learners and excited about learning.
Do. Okay, so this is, we're gonna wrap up here real soon, but this kind of piggybacks on that last question. What has been your greatest joy in starting this business and doing what you do?
I think having the ability to serve our community. You know, when I co-founded this with Dr. Beck, I felt such a huge burden for our community that we didn't have proper resources to assist families in proper identification and treatment. Right. And knowing that we're able to serve our community in that way, it's been really rewarding. You know, to see kids come out of their treatment rooms smiling and excited and skipping down the hallway, and parents having a sigh of relief and a sense of hope, that does it for me every day.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, because before the Winston Center was here, there were other places you could take to get your child tested, but then they were outsourcing you to other areas to, like, oh, you need to find a tutor for this, or we think this person up at St. Luke's could help with this, or here we have a counselor that comes in only one day a week for that, and it was like a hot mess, and you're already running around all over the place trying to help this child out or just get through life. And then it was like, oh, well, okay, now he needs maybe 5 different therapies that could help, and they're all housed in different places. Well, the Winston Center brought it all under one roof, and which I found was so just convenient. And then I also think that your child gets used to being in that space, so they relax, they get more comfortable, they know what to expect when they come, they know this is the place that helps them learn, you know, reprogram their brain in a new way, and they start seeing progress. But the biggest gift to parents was having it, I think, in-house. But let's talk a little bit about, just real quick, you don't only treat kids here.
Correct. We treat adults too. So we go from 0 to 99. Oftentimes parents bring their kiddo in saying, hey, they're struggling in school. I also sort of struggled. Or I kind of had a little bit of ADHD when I was a kid, and as they go through the assessment process, treatment process, they realize I need help too. I need some support too, and this might help me be a better parent to engage this process also. So a lot of our kiddos come in for the attention side. Kid comes in, gets identified, and the parent realizes they need some support and treatment too, and it really helps to be able to treat the whole family.
Yeah.
On the counseling side, you know, we may be treating the kid, but we're treating the family unit, really. Because the parents need the tools to support. We also provide assessment and treatment for adults with dyslexia as well. A lot of adults say, hey, I've struggled with this all my life. I want to get a job promotion. I want to be able to go back to school. Yeah. And so we provide that assessment and intervention for them as well.
I think, so I have a girlfriend that was treated here for ADHD, and she was like, for the first time in my life, I didn't kind of think that I just couldn't get things done. Oh, I wasn't someone that finished projects, or she was like, she saw that she was able to stay on track
Mhm.
and complete things, and it was a game changer for her. She's like, it's no longer like crazy making, right?
Yeah, and when you're a mom of like 3 kids and one of them or 2 of them also have ADHD and you have ADHD, oh, it gets crazy making.
Yeah.
But if you're able to get the right treatment and support, your family can have peace again.
Which is just, I think, the biggest gift.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, if you have any questions, Wendy is on, tell them your Instagram. You are
we have the Winston Center. Yep.
So you can reach out there, you can go to their website, and she will, she'll answer, she'll respond, and she'll get you the directions of where you need to go. My biggest recommendation would be to not wait. If you suspect that something's going on, or you in your own life think like, oh, I've just never been someone that's been able to complete a project, like, come have a chat, see what's going on. But really, for your child, the sake of your kiddo, like, don't put it off. Just it is worth having them assessed, because I think it just can change their whole trajectory at a young age. I wish I would have done it younger for Tristan.
And it's better to have an accurate name for what's going on so they can understand.
Yes.
That understanding is huge. And then they're not mislabeling themselves. They're
Yeah.
not growing up as an adult thinking, well, I was just I wasn't a good student, I was kind of dumb, I couldn't do that. But they realized, oh no, my brain just processes differently. I can get treatment and support for that, and I know I can succeed.
And I think it's a much easier communication path with their teachers.
Absolutely.
If you're able to go in from the get-go and be like, this is what we know about our child, this is how we've seen the things that are working in the past, like, can you partner with us for his education in this way? Most of the time they're like, yep, great, thanks for letting me know. So, all right, this is one question I'm asking every guest that I talk to. So it can be personally, it can be professionally, it can be like binge watching Netflix, but what is your best step that you're taking in your life right now?
For myself, I have to say maybe 2 things.
Yeah.
One, I'm trying to be more intentional about my sleep, because I have a strong,
Oh, it's okay.
I have a family history of dementia and Alzheimer's,
Oh.
and I want to make sure I get my sleep because that's important.
So
And
that's
exercise.
feeling nervous, like that's feeling right at the surface.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that.
There's, and I know I can make a difference in my life now. There's changes I can make now to change that trajectory.
Mhm.
And so I know if I can help with my sleep, and if I can start, making sure I'm getting my exercise each day, getting all my steps in, that's going to help change my personal trajectory. So that's kind of my thing that I'm focusing on.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Well, so 3 kids, runs a badass business. Like, that's a lot. And so
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a ton. And you run a business where there's a high level of need too, right? Everyone's coming to you, they have a need, and you're emotionally invested in your clients all the time. So you have to find time to take care of yourself. Yeah, and it's easy
you do. You have to make yourself a priority too.
But that is so hard for us to do,
It is.
right? And it's so easy to push that off until your body kind of says, hey, like, we're not feeling that great. And whenever I get off on my self-care, I don't sleep well. That's the first thing that goes for me. Yeah.
And stress. It'll all
Yeah.
kind of compound on you. So you got to take care of yourself.
Okay, so I think that's really a good one. Sleep is like, we cannot get enough sleep.
It's very important for well-being.
The first night of school, so our kids go to the same school, and the first night of school I stayed I put everyone to bed at a decent time, but then I stayed up till 1 a.m. I was trying to get some stuff done.
Yeah.
Oh man. Just kill that. I just
It takes
can't.
a toll.
It does. I felt awful.
Yeah, and it can have such a compounding effect on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was, you said you had 2?
Sleep and exercise.
Sleep and exercise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think those are always our best next steps, right?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, all of you out there today. And Wendy, thanks for your time.
Thank
you
you
for talking about this subject. I think that it causes a lot of confusion for so many parents, and I love shining the light on these topics because it's just common.
It is. It is.
And you don't have to struggle alone. There's help. So reach out for it if you need it, okay? All right, you all, you have a great day.
All right, thank you.